Hi everybody, it's Terry Ryder from Hotspotting. Earlier this week we had Tony Abbott, who is the former Prime Minister but apparently doesn't understand the meaning of the word former, pontificating about immigration policy, and in part of that dissertation he implied that we have too many migrants coming to the country, and that's the prime reason why we have an affordability problem with our housing market. The new edition of the Ryder Report, the February edition, which we published this week, actually has a major article on the subject of affordability, and we make the argument very strongly that affordability issues, particularly in Sydney, got very little to do with migrants or with foreign investment or with negative gearing within Australian investments, which are some of the popular targets of people who debate the affordability issue. The argument I make in the editorial in this current edition of the Ryder Report is that it's really about what the politicians do, the decisions they make, the delays they cause in the provision of new housing and the supply of new land, and the costs that they lump on the housing industry, the taxes, fees and charges that they impose upon the industry that creates new dwellings for young Australian families. As an example, in New South Wales there have been two recent decisions by the New South Wales state government, one which relates to biodiversity regulations and the other which relates to the cap for the infrastructure charges that builders and developers have to pay to local councils when they create new dwellings. Those two decisions alone potentially have added somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 to the cost of creating a new house and land package in New South Wales. And when you look at those numbers and understand it's just a few amongst many decisions handed down by this state government and other state governments which add to the cost of creating new dwellings, you realise why the cost of new house and land packages and new apartments are so high in Australia, particularly in Sydney. It's impossible to get a new house and land package anywhere in Sydney, even in the most far-flung western or southwestern outskirts of the Greater Sydney area, for less than $600,000 or $650,000. And this is why, because the costs are loaded up by local councils and the state government milking the industry for all it's worth, their favourite cash cow. And every time a state government like the New South Wales state government brings down an annual budget, the affordability problem gets worse, because you can be sure they will have loaded up the industry with new fees and charges and taxes. So that, for me, is really the nub of the affordability issue. It's not about negative gearing. It's not about foreigners coming into the country as investors or as migrants. It's about politicians. All three levels of government use the housing industry as a cash cow. They load up the costs of creating new housing, and that is the nub of the affordability problem in this country. If you want to read more about it, get the February edition of the Ryder Report, out now, available on the hotspotting.com.au website. That's it for now. Talk to you again soon.